Well, good morning, everybody. It's time for another edition of Mantra Monday. So you should be seeing me on YouTube Adhikayani Performs if you're a YouTube subscriber, and if you're on my band page, Adhikayani Music, that would be my Facebook band page. You should be seeing the stream right now, and it is already February. It is Monday, February 1st. Shout out to excuse me, shout out to Nora, who sent me a text photo this morning of a very snow-covered New York City. So I can't complain here. Although I did see snow in the distance yesterday. That's the snow-capped mountains in San Bernardino County, where the elevation is about 5,000 feet. And that was beautiful to see. So before I get into it, or before we get into it this morning, I want to ask you for your support for this channel. There should be, excuse me, my goodness, there should be a link in the chat. Let's see, there we go. A link in the chat. There, you can donate $1 via PayPal. So it's paypal.me/Akayani-music. I really appreciate it. Cost me about $20 a month to run this channel outside of internet costs. And I do appreciate the support if you can spare it. I know times are tough. Also, if you would like to get an SMS alert, see, I spelled alerts wrong here. Alerts. If you would like to get a text reminder right before I go live, you can sign up at akayanimusic.com/mantra-Mondays. So the link is there as well. I'm just going to go here and check on my Facebook and make sure that everything is running the way it should be. Yes, I see that I am live on Facebook. That is awesome. And that comment is for me. Okay. All right. So grab a cup of coffee, tea. If you're on the West Coast, you may be eating breakfast. If you're working from home, there we go. Okay, so we are into the universal form still. This is a chapter that has 55 verses in it, and today we're going to be covering verses 26, 27, 28, 29. 26 and 27 are dual verses, 28 and 29. And again, this is Prince Arjuna, who is witnessing the universal form of Viśnu, or his friend, in a more who he knows usually as Krishna. Krishna in his two-armed form. But where we left off last week, Arjuna said that seeing you with your many radiant colors touching the sky, your gaping mouths, and your great glowing eyes, my mind is perturbed by fear. I could no longer maintain my steadiness or equilibrium of mind. So this is an overwhelming situation for Arjuna. It continues to be overwhelming. So let's get into it. So I'm going to read the Sanskrit first. Amicha tvāṁ dhritarashtrasya putrāḥ sarve sahaivāvani-pāla-saṅghaiḥ bhīṣmo droṇaḥ sūta-putras tathāsau sahāsmadīyair api yodha-mukhyaiḥ vaktrāṇi te tvaramāṇā viśanti daṁṣṭrā-karālāni bhayānakāni kecid vilagnā daśanāntareṣu sandṛśyante cūrṇitair uttamam gayi. I'm going to attempt to sing this because these verses are actually meant to be sung. Amicha tvam dhritarashtrasya putra sarve sahaivāvani-pāla-saṅghaiḥ bhīṣmo droṇaḥ sūta-putras tathāsau sahāsmadīyair yodha-mukhyaiḥ vaktrāṇi te tvaramāṇā viśanti daṁṣṭrā-karālāni bhayānakāni kecid vilagnā daśanāntareṣu sandṛśyante cūrṇitair utam-mangai. So I'm going to have the word-for-word translation. Ami, these. Cha, also. Tvam, you. Dhritarashtrasya, of Dhritarashtra. Putra, the sons. Sarve, all. Saha, with. Eva, indeed. Avāni-pāla, of warrior kings. Saṅghaiḥ, the groups. bhīṣmo, Bhīṣmo, droṇaḥ, droṇacharya. Sūta-putras, karna. Tathā, also. Asau, that. Saha, with. Sahāsmadīyair, are. Api, also. yodha-mukhyaiḥ, chiefs among the warriors. Vaktrāṇy, mouths. Te, your. tvaramāṇā, rushing. viśanti, are entering. daṁṣṭrā, teeth. karālāni, terrible. bhayānakāni, very fearful. Kecid, some of them. vilagnā, becoming attached. daśanāntareṣu, between the teeth. sandṛśyante, are seen. cūrṇitair, with smashed. angai, heads. Translation. All the sons of Dhritarashtra, along with their allied kings, and Bhīṣmo, droṇaḥ, Karna, and our chief soldiers also, are rushing into your fearful mouths, and some I see trapped with heads smashed between your teeth. In a previous verse, the Lord promised to show Arjuna things he would be very interested in seeing. Now Arjuna sees that the leaders of the opposite party, Bhīṣmo, droṇaḥ, Karna, and all the sons of Dhritarashtra, and their soldiers, and Arjuna's own soldiers, are all being annihilated. This is an indication that after the death of nearly all the persons assembled at Kurukshetra, Arjuna will emerge victorious. It is also mentioned here that Bhīṣmo, who is supposed to be unconquerable, will also be smashed. So also Karna. Not only will the great warriors of the other party like Bhīṣmo be smashed, but some of the great warriors of Arjuna's side also. Whoa. Whoa. So here, Arjuna is literally seeing his fate, and he is seeing the fate of his family members who have opposed him and his family on the other side. And he's also seeing that his soldiers, some of his soldiers, will also not be spared. In other words, death is predestined. Unless, of course, there is something untimely, right? There are things that happen that are not cool. But this is, unequivocally the showing of his destiny, because Krishna has been trying to encourage Arjuna to perform his duty for many, many, many verses here. This whole Bhagavad Gita is an encouragement to Arjuna to play out his role in life, to participate, to do what he was supposed to do, what he is supposed to do. And here in this these kind of final revelations, Krishna is showing him that this is the way this is going to play out anyway. So better that you carry out your duty as a kshatriya and perform your duty according to your varna, according to your dharma, because all of this is going to happen anyway. The what's the word? The die has been cast. All the players in this great drama, of the Mahabharata and this battle of Kurukshetra, they had made their decisions a long time ago. Uh, in the case of, Arjuna and his family and the various trials and tribulations that they went through at the hands of the Kurus, this has been stretching on for decades. And every attempt to stop it, every attempt to compromise, every attempt to use diplomacy always fell flat on its face because the Kurus were simply not interested in that whatsoever. So there comes a point, I believe there comes a point, we all have free will. We all have a choice in what we want to do in life and what we want to say and who we want to hang out with. Uh, you know, but there comes a point where it's irreversible. In other words, there comes a point where you're going to have to live out and bear out the consequences of the choices that you have made. So this is being done, on a very, very grand scale here. Yeah, this is pretty intense. So I guess I want to get into a little bit who these personalities actually are. If you've already read the Mahabharata, which I highly recommend reading, it's quite a story. I recommend doing so with the caveat that just be aware that you may not be getting, a devotional version of it. Some of these versions are a little bit what we call rasa basa. But if you've read enough of the Srimad Bhagavatam, then you'll understand who everybody is. But that being said, Dhritarashtra. Okay, so remember, Dhritarashtra is the king who is the father of the Kurus, right? He has 100 sons. He has 100 sons that he's had with his good, chaste, faithful, and powerful wife, Gandhari. Dhritarashtra is blind. And he is very, he's weak of character. He is weak spiritually. He was never able to say no to his sons, in particular, his oldest son, who is a very envious and aggressive nature and who has been actively persecuting his cousins for decades. Also, all the allied kings, right? Now, also assembled there is Bhīṣmo. So if you go back to a Mantra Monday, this must be, 6 months ago already, you may recall grandfather Bhīṣmo. He is the grandsire of this dynasty. He taught, along with Dronacharya, who's mentioned here in this verse, the military arts to all the princes on both sides. They grew up together. They learned archery and they learned all these skills together under the tutelage of Bhīṣmo and Dronacharya. But Bhīṣmo also had another dimensional role, particularly in the life of the Pandavas, because the Pandavas didn't have a father. They didn't have a father present with them because Maharaj Pandu died before they could, before they met him. Uh, yeah, that's a very interesting family story there. Not to get sidetracked too much, but Queen Kunti is the mother of Arjuna. She is the mother of Yudhishthir, and she is the mother of Bhima. Sahadeva and Nakula, the twins, they are the sons of Kunti's co-wife or co-queen Madri. Madri was the first wife of Maharaj Pandu. Due to this untimely passing of Maharaj Pandu, Madri also gave up her life as well. So essentially, Queen Kunti is a widow, and not only is she taking care of her sons as a single mother, she's also taking care of the sons of essentially, her orphaned stepsons, Mahadev and um, Sahadev. So that's what's going on there. So part of this backstory is Karna is also her son. Karna is the son that she had with the sun god, with Surya, with Vivishvan. And she was a very young girl when this happened, and not wanting to go to her parents to say, hey, guess what? I'm pregnant. I became pregnant. The demigod, even though this is extraordinary, right? It's not like she got pregnant from some random dude, It was only the demigod that's responsible for providing sunlight to us within this universe. That being said, uh, what she ended up doing was is that she ended up putting Karna in swaddling clothes and in a basket and literally sending him down a river, hoping that he would be adopted by someone. And in fact, he was. He was adopted by a couple that could not have any children. And but they could tell that this child was not an ordinary child. He was very powerful. He had interesting markings on his body, and he had the temperament of a Kshatriya. So part of the tragedy of the Mahabharata is that it's not until this battle is really over that Arjuna and Yudhishthir and Bhima realize that Karna was actually their brother, you know. So there's a lot of plot twists and turns in the Mahabharata, and as any good dynastic story will have, right? There's cover-ups, there's misunderstandings, there's tragedies. Uh, and also, the chief soldiers are all rushing into your fearful mouths. So these people, they were each in their own way extraordinary people with extraordinary talents and abilities and powers. But still, no one can avoid their death. No one can avoid their destiny in this world. We all have a role to play. Uh, and so that is what is literally being shown to Arjuna here on the battlefield. Okay, so now text 28, and we're going to do text 29. Yathā nadīnāṁ bahavo mbu-vegāḥ samudram evābhimukhā dravanti tathā tavāmī nara-loka-vīrā viśanti vaktrāṇy abhivijvalanti. So, the translation. Yathā, as nadīnāṁ, of the rivers, bahavo, the many, mbu-vegāḥ, waves of the water, samudram, the ocean, eva, certainly, abhivijvalanti, towards dravanti, glide, tathā, similarly, tathā, your, ami, all these, nara-loka-vīrā, kings of human society, viśanti, are entering, vaktrāṇy, the mouths, abhivijvalanti, abhivijvalanti, and are blazing. Translation: as the many waves of the rivers flow into the ocean, so do all these great warriors enter your blazing mouths. So now Arjuna here is being philosophical. This is poetic. This is a great book of poetry after all. And he is reflecting as he is seeing that as the rivers flow into the ocean, so do all these great warriors enter your blazing mouths. So do all these great warriors die. Of course, obviously, if you're signed up as a soldier, you know that the end game is the potential sacrifice of your life. Soldiers lay down their lives to protect. The next verse, text 30, Tataiva nashaya viśanti lokas, tavapi vaktrāṇi samudra vegāḥ. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Excuse me, 29, beg your pardon. Skip the first part of the Sanskrit. Yathā pradiptam javalanam patanga viśanti nashaya samrida vegāḥ. Tataiva nashaya viśanti lokas, tavapi vaktrāṇi samrida vegāḥ. Yathā pradiptam javalam patanga viśanti nashaya samrida vegāḥ. Tataiva nashaya viśanti lokas, tavapi vaktrāṇi samrida vegāḥ. Now for the word-for-word translation. Yathā as, pradiptam blazing, javalanam a fire, patangaha moths, viśanti enter, nashaya for destruction, samrida with full, vegāḥ speed, tathā similarly, nashaya for destruction, viśanti are entering, lokaha all people, tathā your, api also, vaktrāṇi mouths, samrida vegāḥ with full speed. Translation: I see all people rushing full speed into your mouths, as moths dash to destruction in a blazing fire. So there you go. That basically sums it up. That people in general are rushing towards death, right? They do not necessarily have a clear understanding of their ultimate end. Or if they're aware, it is something that is often quite fearful. And Arjuna here is making another poetic analogy that people are being drawn towards death, just as a moth is drawn to a flame. You see that. You've been hanging out in the summertime, out in the garden, your patio, your porch, and you have a candle or you have a light, or you have something like that, and the moth, even though it's dangerous for them, they are irresistibly attracted to the light, and inevitably they meet their end in that way. So that's why it's so important to spend the time like we are spending to contemplate the purpose of our lives, try and raise our vibrations. And it's a great way to start off the week is to recalibrate and to reflect on these things and ponder these things, because this is what human life is made for, more than just trying to scratch out a living and paying off your debts and your mortgages and your bills and so on and so forth every month. the routines that we all fall into trying to survive just on the day-to-day. It's important to understand that we all have a higher purpose, and that also can give us more meaning and a little bit more enthusiasm to the things that we perform on a daily basis. If we can reflect on those things, then instead of our lives being disparate pieces, everything that we do ultimately becomes a meditation, and a meditation on the Supreme and our ultimate goal. We can dovetail even our most mundane activities, seemingly mundane activities, because we have a spiritual awareness and a spiritual consciousness. Perhaps easier said than done, especially in the beginning when we're just learning all these different things. It's like, learning how to crawl before you can walk and before you can run. But it's time well spent. And speaking of time well spent, I think we've come to the end of our time this morning. I don't see anybody here, so I don't see anyone has any questions or comments. So I guess I will just close by saying, in 2 weeks, on Valentine's Day, on February 14th, I'm going to be hosting a listening party on my Facebook band page. It's called Valentine's is for Lovers, and we're going to be listening to my hot tracks. Yeah. And also some deeper cuts of some romantic ballads that I have. So mark it on your calendar. I will put that link in the description of this video later, or just head on over to Adakayani Music. Actually, you know what? Let me just do this right here, right now. You can find it. Facebook.com, Akayani Music, and the invitation is there. You'll also see a banner on top of the page with me dressed up in like in a glittery disco shirt with some balloons in the background. And there's a little sign up box right there. If you can't find the event easily on the page, I made it easy for you to RSVP. So I will see anyone who has missed this live over on Instagram at 9:35 a.m. That handle is Instagram.com/Akayani_musical_yoga. Namaste. Thank you very much for spending this time with me. I appreciate your association.